Okay, so let's try and get into this. That moment, you know the one, when you finally walk in the door after a day that's just been, well, relentless.
Oh, yeah. Like wading through thick mud mentally.
Exactly. You've been on for hours, your brain is just buzzing, you're running on empty. All you want is peace.
Yeah.
The sofa, silence maybe.
That feeling of just letting go.
Answer.
Finally. That sanctuary.
Right. And then, bam, your partner, maybe they're in the kitchen, they just ask something simple, right? Like, did you remember to schedule the plumber?
Okay.
And it's not even always the words. Maybe it's a tiny bit of, I don't know,
Yeah.
tone. Or just the fact that it's another thing. And suddenly all the chaos, you somehow manage to keep stuff down all day. The annoying meeting, the deadline stress, maybe worrying about money, it just erupts. You hear yourself snap back, way harsher than the question deserved. And just like that, you've turned your safe space into a conflict zone.
And it feels awful, doesn't it? That immediate wash of regret, maybe even shame. You think, why? Why now? Why here?
Yes. Why does all the stuff we manage so well out there, in public, come roaring out the second we feel safe? Why do the people we love the most get the worst of it?
It's such a key question, and I really want to say this up front, for you and for everyone listening. That moment, that snap, it's so incredibly human. It is not a moral failing.
It feels like one, though. A big one.
No, it does. But if we look at it maybe more gently, through a psychological lens, we start to see that these feelings, the anger, the irritation, they aren't actually the enemy here.
Okay, what are they then?
They're more like messengers. Energy that's trying to tell you something important. Energy that's built up precisely because it was suppressed all day.
Messengers. Carrying something I ignored.
Exactly. The problem isn't the energy itself, it's that we haven't learned how to hold it, how to meet it with awareness, maybe even kindness. That snap is like a flare signal from deep inside, trying to tell you what you actually need. Maybe it's rest, maybe validation, maybe just space.
Right.
So maybe our mission here in this deep dive is to understand what that anger is really trying to protect, and how we can shift from just reacting out of pure exhaustion to responding with a bit more awareness, bringing our whole selves home, not just the leftover chaos.
Okay, I want that. So let's start with that buildup, the accumulation. Because it feels so illogical. I can be perfectly fine, handling work stress, emails, difficult people. Pretty effectively, actually.
Like keeping it all together.
Yeah. And then the moment I cross my own doorstep, it's like total collapse. Why does that happen? Why fall apart when the pressure's supposedly off?
It feels backwards, but physiologically, psychologically, it makes perfect sense. It's often about something we could call unmetabolized experience.
Unmetabolized, like undigested.
Exactly, like undigested. Think of your day like you're gathering experiences. And during a stressful day, you gather tons of little emotional fragments.
Like what?
Oh, a sharp tone from a colleague, a flicker of fear about a project's deadline, maybe a small disappointment you had to just swallow to keep a meeting on track. Little things, big things. You push them down, you suppress the immediate reaction to keep functioning, to perform.
Right. You can't just burst into tears in the middle of a presentation.
Precisely. So these reactions, these fragments, they don't get processed. They don't get digested. They just sit there, waiting, accumulating.
Like emotional leftovers fermenting inside.
That's a great way to put it. They sit in your psyche, kind of fermenting. And here's the trap. We think because we held it together all day, because we looked fine, that we are fine. We nailed the presentation, smiled through the awkward call, so we should be okay when we get home.
But we're not.
We're often not, because suppression isn't resolution, it's just postponement.
Yeah.
Your body, your nervous system, your psyche, they keep score. They eventually collect that emotional debt. So by the evening, you're not just tired, you're literally overflowing with this backlog of unprocessed stuff.
So the pressure cooker just needs the tiniest thing.
Right.
Like the plumber question to blow.
Exactly. That question becomes the final straw, the pinprick. Let's try an analogy. Imagine your true self, your core, is like a deep, calm lake.
Okay.
But throughout the day, the wind of stress demands, frustrations, anxieties blows hard across the surface. It churns up ripples, then waves, maybe even whitecaps.
Yeah, I feel that churning.
So when you get home, you're exhausted, and you're mistaking that turbulent surface for your entire being. You react from the waves. You lash out as if your loved one caused the storm.
When really they just walked in after the storm had been brewing all day.
Precisely. They walked into the aftermath. You're reacting from the churn, not from the deep stillness that's still there underneath it all.
That makes so much sense visually. My lake is just whipped up. But, okay, knowing that, how do I stop myself from blaming the person who just showed up? How do I stop projecting it onto them?
And that's where we meet the part of the mind that's trying, often clumsily, to protect us. Let's call it the ego, but not as a bad guy. Think of it more like a frightened guardian.
A guardian. What's it guarding?
It's desperately trying to guard you against feeling pain, or feeling inadequate, or maybe feeling powerless. Think about your day. Maybe you felt you didn't have control over your workload, or a client's demands, or someone's bad mood.
Right. A lot of the day feels out of my control.
So when you get home, that part of you, the ego, it scrambles. It tries to reestablish a sense of control somewhere, anywhere, and often the easiest place is in your own home, in your interactions there.
So snapping about the plumber is like a weird, desperate way of saying, okay, I couldn't control my boss today, but I will control the tone of this conversation right now.
You've got it. It's an attempt to regain some feeling of agency, some territory. And here's the really painful part, the paradox.
Okay.
The ego often asserts this control most fiercely with the people who love us the most unconditionally.
Why them? That seems so cruel.
Because deep down, there's a sense maybe unconscious that they are safe targets, that they will forgive us, that they will stay. So paradoxically, we end up wounding the very people whose love and presence could actually help us heal that feeling of powerlessness. We push away the safety net.
Wow. It's like, yeah, like throwing rocks at your only shelter because you're mad the storm outside is rough.
That image of throwing stones, it connects to another idea. Sometimes we talk about carrying weight, but maybe we're not carrying the world's pain exactly. Maybe we're carrying our refusal to put down the little stones we collected all day.
What were the stones?
The stones are the perceived slights, the comparison you made on social media, the compliment you didn't get, the worry about the future you had to stifle, the tiny injustices. The ego holds on to them, thinking they're important, maybe even protective in some way.
Like armor.
Maybe like armor. But by the time you get home, the bag is overflowing. And instead of carefully unpacking, you just dump the whole bag of stones out, often right at the feet of the person you love.
And the ego, in that moment, is like, a guard dog barking like crazy.
That's a perfect metaphor. A loyal, but maybe overzealous and slightly neurotic guard dog.
Okay.
It mistakes any hint of discomfort, a question about a chore, a sigh, a different opinion for a major threat, like an existential danger.
Even when it's clearly not.
Right. The dog starts barking so loudly with so much adrenaline that you can't hear anything else. You can't hear your own heart. You can't hear your partner's actual intent. You can't even identify the real underlying need, maybe just for quiet or understanding. That dog is just frantic by the time you walk in the door, ready to bite at the first perceived wrong move.
Okay, wow, that paints a very clear and slightly uncomfortable picture. So understanding the accumulation, understanding the freaked out guard dog ego.
Yeah.
What do we actually do? It feels like just trying harder or being more disciplined is just more pressure, more suppression.
You're absolutely right. If the system is already overloaded and exhausted, just telling it to be stronger is counterproductive. It's like asking someone running a marathon on fumes to just run faster.
So what's the first step then, if not discipline?
I believe the first step, the foundation, has to be radical self-compassion.
Self-compassion. Okay. But doesn't that sound a bit like letting yourself off the hook? Like, oh, poor me, I snapped, but it's okay because I'm stressed. Where's the accountability for hurting someone?
That's a really important question. Accountability is crucial. But true accountability starts with recognition and understanding, not with self-punishment. Beating yourself up after you snap just adds another layer of suffering.
How so?
Well, think about it. There's the initial pain or stress of the day. Then there's the snap. Then there's the shame and guilt and self-criticism about snapping. It's like primary suffering, and then secondary suffering we pile on top. The Buddha talked about this suffering, dukkha, this friction of life. It often arises not just from the pain itself, but from our resistance to the pain.
So, by shaming myself for being tired or overwhelmed, I'm actually making the load heavier.
Exactly. You're doubling the weight. If you feel exhausted and your inner voice says, oh, I shouldn't be this tired, I'm so weak, you've just added shame to exhaustion. And guess what? That shame fuels the frightened ego, the guard dog. It feels even more need to protect you, maybe by lashing out defensively.
Okay, so self-compassion isn't an excuse. It's more like stopping the cycle of adding more pain.
Precisely. It's about meeting the difficult reality with kindness first. Imagine pausing, even just for 3 breaths, when you feel that exhaustion or irritation rising, and just whispering internally, this is really hard right now. I feel overwhelmed.
Just acknowledging it.
Just acknowledging it. It doesn't magically make the feeling disappear, but something shifts. The feeling starts to lose its grip. It changes from something that has you, that holds you captive, into something that you can hold gently, with awareness.
That pause,
Yeah.
even 3 breaths, feels like it could change everything. But how do you actually remember to do that? Especially when you walk in the door and you're just fried on autopilot.
That's where small rituals come in. Rituals of transition.
Yeah.
Creating a conscious threshold between the outside world and your home sanctuary. And it has to be small, almost ridiculously simple, because you're already deflated.
Okay, simple I can maybe do, like what?
It could be not rushing straight from the car into the house, maybe sitting in the parked car for just 60 seconds. Take 3 conscious breaths. Or stand at the front door for a moment before you open it. Maybe do a little physical shakeout, like literally shake your hands, your shoulders, wiggle a bit.
Like shaking off the day, a physical release.
Yes, a physical exorcism of the day's tension. Or it could be a silent intention, a quiet vow you make right at the threshold. Okay, world's chaos stops here. I will try not to carry this roughness inside as my offering to the people I love.
My offering to those I love. That hits differently than just don't snap.
It reframes it, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
not about suppressing or withdrawing. It's an active choice, an active presence, setting an intention to transition consciously.
So it's less about control, more about awareness and intention.
Exactly, which leads us to this idea of the alchemy of presence. What does it really mean to be present with these difficult feelings? This is where mindfulness comes in, but maybe not in the way people often think.
How do people usually think of it? Like calming down?
Often, yes, as a technique just to get calm. But the root meaning of the word, often translated as mindfulness, sati, is actually closer to remembering.
Remembering what?
Remembering to be aware, remembering that you are here now, remembering that this feeling, this anger, this frustration, it's happening, but it isn't the totality of who you are. The truly revolutionary act is witnessing the emotion without becoming the emotion.
Okay, how does that work practically? You feel the anger rising, then what?
You notice it, and you shift the internal language. Instead of thinking or saying, I am angry.
Which feels like it defines me in that moment.
Exactly. It fuses your identity with the feeling. Instead, you try shifting to, anger is present, or I notice anger arising, or even there is anger here.
Anger is present. That sounds different, less intense.
It creates space, doesn't it? Suddenly, you are not the anger. You are the observer of the anger. You are the container, the awareness, the sky. And the anger is just a cloud passing through. And in that tiny gap, that space between you and the feeling, that's where freedom lives. That's where choice becomes possible.
That space. So it's about creating space. And doesn't time play a role here too? I've heard something about emotions only lasting 90 seconds. Is that real?
The 90-second truth. Yes, it's a fascinating and incredibly useful concept based on the physiology of emotion. Dr. Jill Bolt-Taylor talks about this beautifully.
Okay, tell me more.
So, the science suggests that when an emotional trigger happens, the actual biochemical cascade, the release of hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, the neuropeptides that create the physical sensation of an emotion like anger or fear, runs its course through your bloodstream in roughly 90 seconds.
90 seconds, that's it. The raw feeling is that short.
The initial physiological wave, yes, it peaks and passes relatively quickly.
Where emotions feel like they last way longer than 90 seconds, hours, sometimes days.
Exactly. So why is that? It's because we keep re-triggering the cycle. We don't let the wave pass. We jump back on it.
How?
With our thoughts, with the story we tell ourselves about the feeling. The ego loves a good story.
Oh boy, does it ever.
Right, so the anger flares, and immediately the mind jumps in with, see, they always disregard my feelings, or I can never catch a break, this is so unfair, or how dare they speak to me like that. That narrative, that story.
It pours fuel on the fire.
Precisely, it re-stimulates the emotional centers in the brain, it restarts the chemical flood, and boom, you've just reset the 90-second timer. And we can keep doing that indefinitely, looping the story, looping the feeling.
So the story is what turns a fleeting chemical reaction into a whole mood, or even part of my personality if I tell it often enough.
You've got it. The story gives the emotion longevity. So the practice becomes, when you feel that heat rising, that tightness in your chest, can you notice it? Can you maybe even name it? Anger. And then immediately bring your attention to the pure physical sensations in your body.
Like the feeling in my stomach or my jaw clenching.
Exactly. The heat, the tension, the vibration. And just commit to staying with those raw sensations, breathing with them for maybe 90 seconds without getting lost in the accompanying story. Just observe the wave.
It sounds simple, but probably really hard in the moment.
It takes practice, immense practice. The goal isn't to stop the wave, because you can't. The goal is to become the ocean, to feel the wave crash, to feel the frustration, the exhaustion, and to realize you are vast enough to hold it all. And because you are the ocean, not just the wave, you can still choose kindness. You can choose a different response because you realize you are more than just that momentary reaction.
Become the ocean.
Okay.
But let's be real. Even with all this awareness, sometimes we're gonna mess up. We're gonna snap. The wave's gonna crash onto the shore, onto someone else. What then? How do we repair that? How do we keep connections safe when ruptures happen?
That is such a vital piece because true intimacy, real connection, isn't built on the fantasy of never having conflict or never messing up. That's impossible.
Right.
Real, resilient intimacy is built on how we navigate the ruptures, how we rise after the fall. It's about meeting that break, that snap, with honesty and a commitment to repair.
So not just sweeping it under the rug or giving a quick sorry?
No. It requires vulnerability. It means going back later, maybe when things are calm, and saying something like, hey, about earlier, I'm really sorry. I realized I was carrying so much stress from my day, just a huge amount of unprocessed stuff, and I let it spill out onto you. That wasn't fair, and I regret doing that.
Owning the accumulation, not just the snap itself.
Yes, you're explaining the why behind the what without making excuses. You're taking responsibility for the energy you brought into the space.
That takes courage, though, to admit you weren't okay, instead of just pretending everything's fine again.
It takes tremendous courage, perhaps the highest form, because peace, real peace, doesn't actually come from maintaining perfect control over everything, including our emotions. It comes from surrender.
Surrender. To what?
Surrender to the truth of the moment. Surrender to the reality of your own exhaustion, your own overwhelm. Admitting, maybe first to yourself, and then, when appropriate, to your loved one, you know what? I'm not okay right now, and maybe that's okay.
I'm not okay, and that's okay. That feels relieving somehow.
It is, because it stops the performance. It stops the striving for some impossible ideal of perfect calm. And when you model that kind of vulnerable honesty, you give the people you love permission to be human too. You show them that connection can hold messiness, that repair is possible.
So if we zoom out and look at this whole journey, the build up, the snap, the awareness, the repair, not as about failure and control, but more about gentle awareness and connection. What's the big invitation here for someone listening?
Maybe the invitation is this. What if that moment you snap, the moment that feels like your biggest failure, isn't actually a failure at all? What if it's an urgent invitation?
An invitation to what?
An invitation from the deepest, most neglected part of yourself. A part that's saying, hey, pay attention. I've been carrying something really heavy all day, maybe for weeks, and I need you to finally look at it. I need rest. I need acknowledgement. I'm scared.
So the anger isn't a wall-stopping connection. It could be a door.
It could absolutely be a door. A door leading you back home, not just to your house, but home to yourself, home to the parts you've overlooked, home to the realization that real love, real connection requires your presence, your messy, imperfect, aware presence, not your perfection.
Presence, not perfection.
Exactly. And maybe here's a final thought to just let settle, something to mull over. How much of our own unprocessed daily frustration, our own unmetabolized stress, becomes the invisible emotional atmosphere in our homes? What if the way we handle or don't handle this internal chaos is subtly shaping the emotional landscape for those around us, maybe even for the next generation? What are we passing down unseen?